fantasy. Strangers' faces flicker like a screen in this midnight fever dream machine. I keep searching for something real in a world that's forgotten how.
There's something we don't talk about enough when it comes to confidence, and it's the fact that the entire journey feels like you're wearing someone else's skin. We see confident people and we think they just woke up one day feeling good about themselves, like they were born with this internal certainty that the rest of us are missing. We see them walk into rooms and command attention without even trying. We watch them speak up in meetings, post photos without overthinking every angle, introduce themselves to strangers like it's the most natural thing in the world. And we think that's just who they are, that confidence is some kind of personality trait you either have or you don't. But that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works, and I wish someone had told me that years ago when I was sitting in my room feeling like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Confidence isn't something you find tucked away in some corner of yourself that you just haven't discovered yet. It's not something you stumble upon during a particularly good therapy session or after reading the right self-help book. Confidence is something you build, brick by uncomfortable brick, through actions that feel wrong until one day they don't. And nobody tells you how much of that process involves feeling like a fraud, like you're pretending to be someone you're not, like you're lying to yourself and everyone around you can see right through it. The truth is that becoming confident requires you to act confident before you feel confident, and that gap between the action and the feeling is where most people give up, because that gap is excruciating. It's standing up straight when every fibre of your being wants to hunch over. It's speaking clearly when you want to rush through your words and apologize for taking up space. It's looking someone in the eye when you'd rather stare at the floor. It's all of these tiny, seemingly insignificant choices that feel monumental when you're making them, because they go against every instinct you've developed over years of protecting yourself from judgment and rejection. I think we glamorize confidence because we only see the end result. We see the person who's made it to the other side, who's done the work, who's pushed through all of that discomfort until it became their new normal. We don't see the process. We don't see them practicing affirmations in the mirror and feeling ridiculous. We don't see them forcing themselves to maintain eye contact during a conversation while their heart races. We don't see them catching themselves mid-slouch for the 1,000th time and consciously rolling their shoulders back. We don't see any of that because confidence, once built, looks effortless. And that's the illusion that keeps so many people stuck. The journey from insecurity to confidence is gradual in a way that makes it almost invisible while you're in it. It's like watching a plant grow, or like my cat Maisie, who used to be this tiny little kitten and now she's huge, and I've been with her basically every single day, so that change was so gradual I didn't even notice it happening. You water the plant every day, you make sure it gets sunlight, you do all the things you're supposed to do, and for weeks it looks exactly the same. You start to wonder if anything is actually happening, if you're wasting your time, if this particular plant is just never going to grow. And then one day you notice it's twice as tall as it was when you started, and you can't pinpoint the exact moment when that growth happened because it was happening all along in increments too small to observe in real time. That's what building confidence feels like. You do the work every single day and nothing seems to change. You still feel insecure about the same things. You still have the same negative thoughts about yourself. You still want to hide in social situations, and then suddenly, sometimes months or even years later, you realize you're different. You realize you love yourself. You realize you're not thinking about that thing you used to be so insecure about. You realize you walked into a room full of strangers and didn't spiral into anxiety about how you were being perceived. And it hits you in the face like, wow, I love myself, and I have never been able to say that before. I love the way I act. I love the way I talk. I love the person I am. I love the friend I am. And it feels crazy because you didn't notice it happening. Somewhere along the way, without you even noticing, you became the person you were trying to become. But let's back up and talk about what that work actually looks like, because I think this is where people get lost. When you're insecure, when you're unhappy with who you are, when you look at confident people and feel like you're living in a completely different reality than they are, the first instinct is to try to change everything at once. You want to wake up tomorrow as a different person. You want to completely overhaul your personality, your habits, your appearance, your entire way of moving through the world. And that impulse makes sense because the gap between who you are and who you want to be feels enormous, so it seems like it should require enormous action to bridge it. But that's not how change works. That's not how the human brain works. Trying to change everything at once is like trying to deadlift 400 pounds on your first day at the gym. You're going to hurt yourself and you're going to give up because it's not sustainable. Real change, lasting change, the kind of change that actually transforms you into a fundamentally different person, happens through small, consistent actions, repeated over time until they become automatic. It happens through micro adjustments that feel so minor you'll wonder if they're even worth doing. The first step in this process, before you take any action at all, is to get clear on who you're trying to become. And I mean really clear. Not just a vague sense of wanting to be more confident or wanting to feel better about yourself. You need to create a detailed, specific vision of your most confident self. What does she look like? What does she think like? What does she act like? You need to know this person intimately. You need to know how she stands, how she speaks, how she moves through the world, what she wears, how she handles conflict, how she treats herself, how she treats others, what her daily habits look like, what she values, what she prioritizes. I'm very visual, so I've created vision boards for this. On these boards, there are outfits, there are hairstyles, there are photos that just depict a certain energy that I picture whenever I think of my most confident self. Some people do this through writing. They journal about their ideal self in present tense, describing a day in her life, describing how she handles various situations, describing her internal monologue. Some people create what's essentially an alter ego, like Beyoncé's Sasha Fierce, a character they can step into when they need to access that confidence before it feels natural. The method doesn't matter as much as the clarity. You need to know this person well enough that you can ask yourself in any given moment what she would do and have an answer. You really got to think of every detail. How does this person stand? For example, I've always been insecure about my posture, just like the shape of my back and shoulders. I've always felt like I kind of have this rounded, hunched thing going on, and I knew that it was coming from stress and insecurity and just like this natural body language that I had, and I was uncomfortable. It just made me feel insecure. And I thought about my most confident self and how she doesn't have that insecurity because she stands up straight, like she doesn't have that problem because she can easily have her chest open and feel confident and great. She has that body language. Body language is such an important part, you know. Of course you can create the vision boards with the outfits and the hair and the makeup, but then you start to think about these smaller details. There's layers to it. Okay, of course, what does she look like on the outside, but then how does she carry herself and how does she speak? That was another thing that, honestly, I'm sort of actively working on right now because I know that the most confident version of myself is a really powerful communicator. When I feel like maybe I'm saying too much, I sort of dismiss myself and over-explain. Whenever I catch myself doing that, I have the awareness because I have the vision. This vision becomes your North Star. It's the thing you're constantly moving toward, even when the movement is so incremental that it feels like you're standing still. And here's the thing about that vision that's really important to understand. That version of you already exists inside you. You wouldn't be able to imagine her if she wasn't already part of who you are. She's not some fantasy person you're trying to become. She's you without all the layers of insecurity and fear and negative self-talk that you've accumulated over the years. She's you operating at your full potential, unencumbered by all the limiting beliefs you've internalized, or else you wouldn't have been able to create it. Once you have that vision, once you know who you're trying to become, the work begins, and the work is uncomfortable in ways that are hard to describe to someone who hasn't been through it. Because the work is essentially forcing yourself to act like someone you're not, over and over again.
Just to watch it die. And I tell myself never again every time, but I fall for the same old tricks dressed in rhyme. You're sugar with poison and I keep drinking it down. I get high on the chaos, then you spin me around. I should know better, but I don't walk away. 'Cause even
Until one day you are that person. It's fake it till you make it, but nobody tells you how psychologically disorienting that process is. I love that Euphoria quote by Maddie where she's doing Lexi's makeup and she's like, "Everyone feels stupid and I just chose not to." That is facts. Because nobody knows if confidence is real or not. People, however they hold themselves, that is how other people will receive them. So you don't actually have to fix everything in your brain and feel so amazing about yourself in order to start acting like it. When you're insecure, there's a certain comfort in that insecurity. It's familiar. You know how to be insecure. You know how to shrink yourself, how to apologize for existing, how to defer to others, how to hide. Those behaviors feel natural because you've been practicing them for years. They're your default setting. So when you try to act confident before you feel confident, it feels wrong. It feels like you're lying. It feels like you're wearing a costume that doesn't fit. It feels like everyone around you can tell that you're faking it and they're judging you for it. I know that that part can get the most uncomfortable for me because if I feel ugly, then I'm doing the shrugging and the shoulders and the, "oh, I can never." It's because it feels more comfortable. So the act of faking it and pretending to be something else just feels really weird. It feels like I'm putting on shoes that don't fit me. It feels like I'm doing something so wrong, like you're lying. It can feel like you're lying. How would that confident version act in this situation? And you just pretend. I said it more eloquently yesterday, like you just pretend and you sweat while you're doing it, and your face gets red while you're doing it, and it's uncomfortable, but you do it anyways. But here's what nobody tells you. Everyone feels that way. Everyone who has ever built genuine confidence has gone through this exact phase of feeling like a fraud. That discomfort isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, it's a sign that you're doing something right. It's a sign that you're pushing against your comfort zone, that you're rewiring patterns that have been ingrained in you for years, that you're literally building new neural pathways that will eventually become your new default. Think about learning any new skill. When you first start playing an instrument, your fingers don't know where to go. Every note requires conscious effort. You have to think about every single movement, and it sounds terrible, and it feels awkward, and you wonder if you'll ever be able to play smoothly. But you keep practicing. You keep forcing your fingers to hit the right notes, even though it feels unnatural. And eventually, after weeks or months of practice, something shifts. Your fingers start to know where to go without you having to think about it. The movements become fluid. What once required intense concentration now happens automatically. Building confidence works the same way. Becoming comfortable with something and creating a habit is like the act of forcing yourself to do it for a certain period of time until it becomes natural. You're teaching yourself a new way of being in the world. And at first it requires constant conscious effort. The more you start forcing yourself to act like it, you slowly start to actually become it. And I know that sounds kind of like, okay, yeah, obviously, but it's just sort of blowing my mind, like even right now, it's so simple, but it's not easy. You start to enjoy it over time, and it does become easier. With my posture thing, I've had the awareness for a long time that my posture is not what I want it to be. I had the awareness because I knew the insecurity, and I had the vision of, okay, my most confident self doesn't stand like this, okay, I'm insecure about this thing. But it wasn't until I actually went through the physical discomfort, like of rolling my shoulders back, taking a breath, stretching the neck, loosening up. That is just not natural to me, and I had to keep going and keep doing it anyways, and reminding myself as much as possible until it started to become how I was able to stand. I finally had the strength and the power to stand up straight and relax, like I was able to build that through the discomfort. Catching yourself and having the awareness of, oh my gosh, okay, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to change the way I'm speaking right now because this is how I've spoken for years and years and years. I don't want to stop myself. I don't want to slow down. That's uncomfortable. But oh wait, I remember how she talks, so let me try to reintroduce that a little bit. You don't have to force a whole new personality or anything, but it's more about reintroducing patterns and reintroducing ways of existing. The key is consistency. Every time you catch yourself slouching and you roll your shoulders back, you're reinforcing the new pattern. Every time you rewrite a text message to remove the unnecessary apologies and qualifiers, you're teaching yourself a new way of communicating. Every time you force yourself to speak up in a meeting, even though your heart is pounding, you're proving to yourself that you can do it. And each individual instance might feel small and insignificant, but they accumulate. They build on each other. They create momentum. This is where a lot of people get discouraged because they do these things for a few days or a few weeks and they still feel insecure. They still have the same negative thoughts about themselves. They still feel uncomfortable in social situations, and they think it's not working, so they give up. But what they don't realize is that the external behavior changes before the internal feeling changes. You have to act like a confident person for a while before you start to feel like a confident person. The doing comes before the being. I know that there have been things that I have seen in myself that I've been insecure about, whether that is mental or physical, and I have told myself the opposite of that. Affirmations are part of faking it until you make it. I feel like laughing at myself when I'm saying these affirmations in the mirror at first. It's actually embarrassing. And when you feel embarrassed to do something, you think you're going to be excited about waking up and doing it. No, that is uncomfortable. Looking yourself in the eye and saying these things that you perceive to be lies right now, but pretty soon they're not going to be, and it's weird how it happens. If you are reinforcing an insecurity every day, and you're saying to yourself, oh, I hate this thing about me, and oh, I just feel so bad about this thing, and you're putting yourself in situations that make you feel insecure and focusing on things that make you insecure and telling yourself those things over and over again, that becomes your reality and that becomes who you are. Whatever you focus on is what grows, and you are acting like it, even when you don't want to, like you are doing the work to be that person, and you are that person, and nobody can tell you otherwise. It sounds just sort of like, you got to believe in yourself. No, it's like you will actually become that person. You don't need the designer purse right now to be that dream self. Does she have that? Maybe, of course, we'll get there. We have to generate it first, and then all of that will come. The discomfort of reintroducing new habits, along with making promises to yourself and following through. For example, I know that my dream self has a certain exercise routine. Do I stick to it all the time? Absolutely not. But every time that I reinforce that habit when I don't feel like doing it, that allows me to trust myself. There's actual neuroscience behind this. When you repeatedly engage in a behavior, even if it feels forced at first, you're strengthening the neural pathways associated with that behavior. Your brain is essentially learning that this is something you do now, and over time, with enough repetition, that behavior becomes automatic. It becomes part of your default operating system. What once required conscious effort now happens without you even thinking about it. And as the behavior becomes more natural, the feelings start to catch up. You start to actually feel like the person you've been acting like. But you have to push through that initial phase where it feels fake and uncomfortable and wrong. You have to be willing to sit with that discomfort and keep going anyway. And this is where understanding the role of discomfort becomes crucial, because if you see discomfort as a sign that something's wrong, you'll stop. But if you can reframe discomfort as evidence that you're growing, as fuel for the transformation you're trying to create, it becomes easier to keep going. Think about physical exercise. When you're trying to build muscle, the actual growth happens when you push your muscles past their comfortable capacity. You lift weights that are heavy enough to create tiny tears in the muscle fibers, and then as those tears heal, the muscle grows back stronger. The discomfort, the burn, the soreness the next day, that's not a sign of damage. It's a sign of growth. If you never feel that discomfort, if you only lift weights that are easy and comfortable, your muscles never have a reason to get stronger. Building confidence works the same way. Think of the discomfort as gas or fuel for the engine that is taking you to the version that you want to be. Whenever I'm forcing myself to wake up to work out, I would rather be sleeping. No. I know that I'm supposed to be going through that discomfort. I know that it's normal, it's painful, and whenever something is painful, we just stray away from it, and we don't want to do it anymore, and we don't want to think about it, and we put it off, and we're always like, oh, I wish that I exercised more, and I wish that I cooked for myself more, I wish I could read more or whatever, like I don't have time. That's what that turns into whenever we get so scared of the discomfort. And it's like using that discomfort as fuel to keep us going, like being like, okay, this is supposed to be uncomfortable right now because I am really far from this. The psychological discomfort you feel when you force yourself to act more confident than you feel, that's the burn. That's the signal that you're creating change. Every time you do something that makes you uncomfortable in service of becoming more confident, you're creating tiny tears in your old identity, and as they heal, you're building a stronger, more confident version of yourself. The discomfort isn't something to avoid or minimize, it's something to lean into, to recognize as necessary, to even welcome as evidence that you're on the right path. You have to care more about the end result than how you feel right there in the moment. It's not instant gratification. These things are slow gratification that bring the results that you're always wishing for and wanting. The bridge to get there is the discomfort, so just know that it's carrying you there. It's carrying you to that goal. This is especially true when it comes to building new habits that align with your vision of your confident self. Maybe your confident self has a morning routine that includes exercise and meditation. Maybe she eats nutritious meals instead of relying on takeout. Maybe she maintains a clean, organized living space. Maybe she pursues hobbies and interests instead of just scrolling through social media in her free time. Whatever habits you've identified as part of that vision, implementing them is going to be uncomfortable at first. The mistake most people make is trying to implement all of these habits at once. I think a lot of the time we get so caught up in like, oh, that dream version of me has this designer purse or has a completely different style and I need to change my wardrobe. And, oh, actually she has these shoes and she has this apartment and so I actually need to get all that first. And then, maybe I actually will feel confident after that. No, absolutely not. We get so caught up in that drastic change. That's why I started talking about how we just feel like we need to drastically change in order to be this vision of ourselves, and it feels so far away. I get it, I understand. Creating a vision can make you feel really opposite from that version of you, but it is so much closer than you think, and it's going to come through smaller actions than you think. They wake up one Monday morning and they're going to exercise and meditate and meal prep and organize their apartment and start that new hobby, and by Wednesday they're exhausted and overwhelmed and they've given up on all of it. This is the equivalent of trying to deadlift 400 pounds on day one. It's too much, too fast, and it's setting yourself up for failure. Instead, you want to break down each habit into the smallest possible action you can take. Atomic Habits by James Clear helped me so much when it came to forming habits. If your goal is to exercise every morning, don't start by committing to an hour-long workout. Start by committing to putting on workout clothes. That's it, just wake up and put on the clothes. You don't even have to exercise if you don't want to. The goal is just to build the habit of putting on the clothes at the designated time. Okay, your dream self wakes up early every single day to exercise. Okay, then just start becoming so comfortable with the smallest steps of it. Just picking out an outfit to exercise in and that's it. Don't exercise, just wake up early and pick out the outfit. And then slowly you can start waking up early, picking out the outfit and putting the outfit on. And if you don't want to exercise, you don't have to, but maybe you will feel more inclined to after you've put it on. But if you don't want to, you just don't have to, but you just built a little bit more of the habit. Now once you feel comfortable with waking up early, picking out the outfit and getting it on, now you can start to go on a 10-minute walk, right? So now every morning you have built that habit, you made sure that you got up every single day. And he goes into detail about like how many days you should be doing this and all that stuff. But I'm just giving you an example of how it doesn't have to feel so daunting and far away. She deadlifts 250 pounds every morning. Like, no, we can get there, but the most productive and powerful use of your time is going to be making the little efforts there. Just slowly, the simplest step of that habit you can think of, just start doing that every day, and then you'll want to do more. And once that becomes easy, once you're consistently putting on the workout clothes every morning without it feeling like a huge effort, then you add the next tiny step. Maybe you put on the clothes and you do 5 minutes of stretching, and once that's easy, maybe you do 10 minutes. And you keep building like this, adding tiny increments until eventually you're doing the full workout and it doesn't feel like torture because you've gradually adapted to it. This approach works because it removes most of the resistance. The hardest part of building a new habit is the initial activation energy required to start. Once you're already in your workout clothes, it's much easier to talk yourself into actually exercising than it would be if you were still in bed trying to convince yourself to get up and completely change your routine. You're reducing the barrier to entry to something so small that it's almost impossible to fail. And this matters more than you might think, because every time you follow through on something you said you were going to do, even if it's something as small as putting on workout clothes, you're proving to yourself that you're trustworthy. You're showing yourself that when you make a commitment, you keep it. And that trust is foundational to confidence. When you make promises to yourself and you actually keep them, that is proving to yourself that you are somebody to trust. What's a trait that we recognize in confident people? They trust themselves. If somebody is confident, they feel steady within themselves. They're confident in what they're saying because they trust themselves. If you can learn to trust yourself, you can have that sense of confidence too. Because why would you not be confident in somebody that you know is reliable and you know that you can trust? And it works with small things. It goes back to what we were just saying. It doesn't have to be big. It can be these tiny things like, I'm going to drink more water every day, and you say that's something you want to do, and then you actually commit. Actually making promises to yourself and following through will show you and will show your subconscious you are somebody to be trusted who says that they're going to do something and does it. You are a reliable source. Think about the people in your life who you consider confident. One of the hallmarks of confidence is reliability. Confident people do what they say they're going to do. They don't make promises they can't keep. They don't constantly disappoint themselves and others by failing to follow through. They have a sense of internal integrity that comes from aligning their actions with their intentions. And that integrity breeds self-trust, and self-trust is what allows them to move through the world with certainty. People respect a reliable person, and somebody with confidence doesn't wait around for people to respect them. They respect themselves, and therefore they attract that, and they'll surround themselves with people who also respect them. Because why are you going to like somebody who lies to you? Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I really want to do this. I'm going to do it. And then they just don't. Okay, like I don't want to be your friend. I don't trust you. It's the same thing with yourself. You got to build that trust, and you can do it in favor of your goals, you know? You can build habits. You can say like, yeah, I'm going to do this and stick to it and do it. When you don't trust yourself, when you have a track record of making commitments and then breaking them, when you constantly let yourself down, you can't feel confident. Because at a subconscious level, you know you're not reliable. You know that when things get hard, you give up. You know that your promises to yourself don't mean anything, and if you can't trust yourself, how can you expect to feel secure in who you are? But when you start keeping promises to yourself, even tiny ones, that dynamic shifts. Every morning that you actually put on those workout clothes when you said you would, you're building evidence that you're someone who does what they say they're going to do. You're proving to yourself that you're reliable, that you're committed, that you're capable of following through, and as that evidence accumulates, your self-trust grows. And as your self-trust grows, your confidence grows. And it's funny, right? Because it's like we can talk about this all day, and I can sit here and feel all good about what I'm explaining to you, but it's actually doing it where it's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel good and we want to run away and turn around and start all over again. But we're not going to do that because we're going to build the confidence, okay? This is why the small habits matter so much. It's not really about the habits themselves. It's about what keeping those habits proves to you about who you are. It's about building a relationship with yourself based on trust and integrity. It's about becoming someone you can rely on, and that's what confidence is at its core. Confidence is trusting yourself to handle whatever comes your way. It's knowing that you're capable, that you're resourceful, that you'll figure it out. And you can't have that trust if you have a history of abandoning yourself when things get difficult. So you start small, you make tiny promises, and you keep them. You build momentum, you prove to yourself over and over again that you're someone worth trusting. And gradually, as that trust deepens, you start to carry yourself differently. You start to speak differently. You start to really believe that you're capable of becoming the person you want to become, because you have evidence. You're not just hoping or wishing, you're seeing yourself change in real time, even if the changes are subtle. Now let's talk about what happens when you take this confidence out into the world, because that's where things get really interesting. Because confidence isn't just about how you feel about yourself in private. It's about how you show up in social situations, how you interact with other people, how you handle judgment and criticism and rejection. And for a lot of people, this is the hardest part. You can do all the internal work, you can build all the habits, you can practice the affirmations and the body language adjustments, but then you walk into a room full of people and all of that progress feels like it evaporates. Interacting with people becomes a lot less scary, and there's a lot less room for insecurity in yourself when you realize that everybody else is just thinking about their own insecurities. And they're thinking about their own insecurities so much that they are projecting them onto you, and then in turn, that kind of feeds our insecurities. Like we're just all rubbing each other's egos and trying to hurt each other all the time because of our own insecurities. Our insecurities do the talking. If we are out here insulting somebody or talking bad on someone or whatever, and if we feel the need to do that, it's not so scary to interact with people when you realize, oh my God, all they're thinking about is their own insecurities. Social anxiety and insecurity are so deeply intertwined that it's hard to address one without addressing the other. When you're insecure, social situations become minefields. And here's the thing that changed everything for me when I finally understood it. Everyone else is doing the exact same thing. Every single person in that room is thinking about themselves. They're worried about how they're coming across. They're dealing with their own insecurities. They're monitoring their own behavior and wondering what everyone thinks of them. Nobody is paying as much attention to you as you think they are because they're too busy paying attention to themselves. This isn't meant to be dismissive or cynical. It's actually incredibly liberating once you really internalize it. Because it means that all of that anxiety you feel about being judged, about being watched, about people noticing every little thing you do wrong, most of that is just happening in your head. People are not sitting around analyzing your every move. They're not going home and thinking about that slightly awkward thing you said. They're too wrapped up in their own experience to be that focused on yours. And when people are rude to you, when they're judgmental or critical or mean, that's not actually about you either. That's about them. That's about their own insecurities manifesting as an attempt to feel superior. Because if they're looking at you a certain way and they're analyzing you, or you think they're going to talk about you, or they say something to you or whatever, they're saying that to you because they want to feel better about something within themselves. That will give them a false sense of, this person is below me, so therefore I am okay in this area, I am better. Confident people don't feel the need to talk about anybody, to insult others, compare themselves to others, to talk about others behind their backs. That's just the truth, because they're fulfilled with themselves, with the people they surround themselves with, what they put their attention on. They're not going to be wasting time. Insecurities are vicious. They will look for anything they can find to validate themselves. Criticizing others gives people some sort of false superiority complex, that they are better and they are superior and they don't have a reason to feel insecure. When you start to actually care about yourself, you don't feel the need to be hateful, you know. Anyone who is being rude to you or talking about you behind your back or just tries to make you feel shitty about something. It's not your problem, it's not your responsibility, and it's also not about you. It is about them. And, after realizing this fact, it gets really easy. You have that lens of, okay, this person feels good about themselves, therefore they want me to feel good too. I think that you can still be insecure and still be a very nice person, but I think that a very easy way to comfort yourself when you're insecure is to try to bring others down. This is sort of going into social anxiety, like what I just said and now what I'm about to say. You kind of got to start switching your mind from like, like being sort of scared of the outside world. I'm saying this because I used to have really bad social anxiety. I have been a shy kid all my life. In school I was not popular. I have always sort of kept to myself and the people who I trust around me. The idea of walking into a room and being a part of like a bigger space and group of people who I didn't know, or even people who I did know, used to really freak me out. And then I had to ask myself like, okay, why am I freaked out? What is there? What is making me feel so scared? What is the belief I have in myself? And then it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the vision. What makes you feel so different from that? What's the issue, right? So, identifying that, I think a big thing about being insecure and having social anxiety and stuff is like you're so aware of the way that you might be coming across, or you don't want to come across a certain way to people, or you do want to come across a certain way to people, or you have some sort of insecurity around the way that you're acting or being perceived. I have felt that so strongly my whole life. And it wasn't until I started flipping it, being like, no, you know what, I have nothing to worry about here. Walking into a room, being excited for these people that they get to experience you. Seeing yourself in that regard of, you're not better than anybody, you're not superior, but you love yourself and you are excited to add to this room. You're excited for the people around you. You are excited for your presence to interact with others because you are amazing and you are worthy of that, and you are interesting and you love yourself, and you love yourself for a reason. This shift in perspective changes everything about social interactions. Instead of walking into a room full of people and feeling anxious and small and worried about being judged, you can walk in with curiosity and openness. You can be excited to meet people, to hear their stories, to connect with them, because you're not there to prove anything. You're not there to perform or to seek validation. You're there as yourself, secure in who you are, interested in engaging with others from that place of security. All of this work that we're talking about, all the comfort we're sacrificing to be here, we didn't come here to be like, oh, I'm going to walk in a room with my head down a little bit. No, we came in here to grace everyone with our presence. You are putting all this work into yourself because you are worth it, and you are so special and beautiful and amazing, and you get to share that with the world. And you get to walk up to people and introduce yourself to people as that person that you love, as that person who is watching this video, as that person who wants to learn, as that person who wants to grow, as that person who does the uncomfortable things for themselves, for the person who keeps the promises to themselves. That person deserves love and respect, and you give that to yourself. And you're excited for other people to meet that person, and you're excited for other people to engage with that person. And here's something that might sound arrogant at first, but is actually just true. People are lucky to interact with you. You are interesting. You have unique perspectives and experiences and insights. You have value to add to any conversation or situation. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you're you and there's nobody else exactly like you. And if you've been doing the work, if you've been building the confidence and keeping the promises to yourself and becoming someone you trust and respect, then you have every reason to walk into a room and feel good about bringing your presence to that space. You are your dream self. It's you. And you get to mingle with the world as that person. You don't feel like it right now, I promise you, through a little bit of discomfort you will. And I'm just getting so passionate because I literally spent my whole life being so insecure, and I've just recently found the beautiful breath of relief that is confidence. And do I have everything that my dream self would have? No. Like I said, this is a muscle that needs continuous upkeep and maintenance and work. I've seen the proof. Fake it till you make it, but no, just like even if you don't believe it, be like, this is going to be a great experience for me, and everyone in here is excited to meet me. And maybe some people will act like they aren't, and they'll be rude to you, or maybe they won't like you. Not everyone's going to like you, right? But you like you, and other people are going to be attracted to that, and it is going to be good. I promise, just believe it, and keep believing it, even whenever you find reasons not to believe it. Keep believing it, and it will be reality. And I can't believe it's true, but it actually will be. This doesn't mean you're going to like everyone or everyone is going to like you. That's not how human connection works. But it does mean you can show up authentically without all the armor and pretense that insecurity requires. You can be genuine and open because you're not afraid of people seeing who you really are. You actually like who you really are. You've put in the work to become someone you're proud of. So why wouldn't you be excited to share that with the world? And when you show up this way, something interesting happens. People are drawn to it. Genuine confidence is magnetic in a way that arrogance and bravado aren't. When someone is truly comfortable with themselves, when they are not trying to prove anything or convince anyone of anything, when they're just existing in their own sense of self-assurance, other people can feel that. It creates safety. It creates space for others to relax and be themselves too. Because confidence isn't about making yourself bigger by making others smaller. It's about being secure enough in yourself that you can lift others up without it costing you anything. This is the version of confidence that's actually sustainable and fulfilling, not the superficial confidence that comes from external validation, from being better looking or more successful or more popular than other people. That kind of confidence is fragile because it depends on things outside of your control. If your confidence comes from being the prettiest person in the room, what happens when someone prettier walks in? If your confidence comes from your career achievements, what happens when you experience a setback? If your confidence comes from how many likes you get on social media, what happens when a post doesn't perform well? Real confidence, lasting confidence, comes from internal sources. It comes from self-trust. It comes from integrity. It comes from knowing who you are and what you value and living in alignment with that. It comes from having a relationship with yourself that's based on respect and compassion rather than criticism and judgment. It comes from proving to yourself through consistent action that you're capable and reliable and worthy. And once you build that kind of confidence, it doesn't matter what happens externally. You can experience failure and rejection and criticism, and it doesn't shake your fundamental sense of self-worth, because that worth isn't contingent on external circumstances. This is also why the work of building confidence is never really done. It's not like you reach some finish line and then you're confident forever and you never have to think about it again. Life is constantly throwing new challenges at you, new situations that might trigger old insecurities, new contexts where you have to prove to yourself that you can handle it. Confidence is more like a muscle that you have to keep exercising. If you stop doing the work, if you stop checking in with yourself and maintaining the habits and practices that built your confidence in the first place, it will atrophy. But that's okay. That's not a flaw in the process. That's just how growth works. You're always either moving forward or moving backward. You're never static, and the good news is that once you've built confidence once you've gone through the process of transforming yourself from insecure to secure, you know how to do it. You have the tools. You understand what's required. So if you find yourself slipping back into old patterns, if you notice insecurity creeping back in, you know exactly what to do about it. You recognize it, you adjust course, you recommit to the practices that work. And the more times you do this, the easier it gets. The first time you build confidence from scratch, it's hard because you don't really believe it's possible. You're operating on faith that if you keep doing these uncomfortable things, eventually something will shift. But once you've experienced that shift, once you've felt what it's like to genuinely love and trust yourself, you have evidence that the process works. So the next time you need to do it, there's less resistance. You know where you're going. You've been there before. You trust that if you put in the work, you'll get the results. I think one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is to recognize that you're not alone in this struggle. Everyone, and I mean everyone, deals with insecurity on some level. Even the most confident-seeming people have moments of self-doubt. Even people who appear to have it all together are fighting their own internal battles. The difference isn't that confident people don't experience insecurity, it's that they've learned how to work through it instead of letting it paralyze them. And we need each other in this process. We need to see examples of people who have done what we're trying to do. We need role models who show us that transformation is possible, that you can change, that you're not stuck being the insecure version of yourself forever. When you see someone else who came from a similar background or struggled with similar issues successfully build confidence, it makes your own journey feel more achievable. It gives you permission to believe that you can do it too. I could not do what I'm doing and build the confidence that I'm building if I didn't have role models and examples. The resources I've used for motivation and the books and the tools that I have clung to in the midst of this journey, we need each other in order to do this. Because if there aren't people paving the way, then we might not believe it's possible for us either. This is why it's so important to be honest about the process, to talk about the uncomfortable parts, the moments of doubt, the times when you felt like a fraud or like nothing was working. Because when we only show the end result, when we only share the polished version of ourselves after we've done all the work, we're contributing to that illusion that confidence just happens naturally for some people. We're making it seem easy when it's not. And that makes other people feel even more inadequate because they're struggling with something that looks effortless for everyone else. But if we're honest, if we share the messy middle part of the journey, if we talk about how hard it is and how long it takes and how many times we wanted to give up, we make space for others to be honest too. We create a culture where transformation is understood as a process, not a destination, where struggling is normalized instead of stigmatized, where asking for help and admitting that you don't have it all figured out is seen as strength instead of weakness. And the beautiful thing is that as you build your own confidence, as you do this work for yourself, you become that example for someone else. You become proof that change is possible. You become the person that someone else looks at and thinks, if they can do it, maybe I can too. And that ripple effect is powerful beyond measure. Because confidence is contagious in the best possible way. When you show up in the world as your authentic, secure self, you give other people permission to do the same. You can do it. You are that person and you have that vision for a reason. There are so many other people with goals like yours, and maybe they look like you, and maybe they come from a similar background as you. They need someone to look up to, and they need to know that it's possible. And there are people that can help you know that it's possible, and you deserve to feel all the confidence in the world. I promise you it is. It's worth it. There's also something profound about recognizing your own uniqueness in all of this. Not in some fake, everyone gets a trophy way, but in a very literal sense. There is just nobody like you. I'm not saying this as fake motivation and trying to make you feel better about yourself. I'm actually telling you the truth. There is nobody like you. There is nobody with your exact vision, with your exact strengths, talents, weaknesses, your story, your history. There's nobody who is meant to do exactly what you're supposed to do. There is just so much uniqueness in every single one of us that we can be so ashamed of, that we should ultimately be really, really proud of, because there is nobody else who is going to do it like us, whatever that is. When you're insecure, you tend to see your uniqueness as a problem. You see the ways you're different from others, and you interpret that as being wrong or broken or less than. You try to make yourself smaller, more palatable, more like what you think people want you to be. You hide the parts of yourself that don't fit the mold. You apologize for taking up space. You downplay your accomplishments and your strength. You convince yourself that what you have to offer isn't valuable or interesting or worth anyone's time. But your uniqueness is exactly what makes you valuable. The things about you that are different, the perspectives you have that others don't, the experiences you've had that shaped you in specific ways, those are your greatest assets. Those are what allow you to contribute something to the world that nobody else can contribute in quite the same way. And when you start to see your uniqueness as a strength instead of a liability, when you start to own and express the things that make you you, that's when you step into real confidence. There's so many people just waiting to look up to you, whether that's at your job or in your family, or the family you will create, or the friends you will make, or the friends that you have, or the little you that was insecure, unsure about something in themselves, and now you're building that confidence, or you're trying to reach a certain goal. There are so many people waiting to look up to you and waiting for you to pave the way in whatever area you feel like you're not good enough for. If you don't feel beautiful enough, or you don't feel strong enough, or you don't feel lucky enough, or you don't feel whatever it is, there are people who feel the exact same way. People need an example. Because confidence isn't about being perfect or being better than everyone else. It's about being authentically, unapologetically yourself. It's about knowing who you are, accepting who you are, and showing up in the world as that person without apology. It's about trusting that who you are is enough, exactly as you are right now, while also continuing to grow and evolve and become more of yourself. I'm getting emotional. I can't even really explain to you. Ever since I was little, I never felt adequate. I never felt I could be somebody in a room. I always compared myself to other people, and it just makes me sad to think of little Anna not feeling good enough, and then other people, they prey on that. Like I said earlier, insecurity is vicious, and if other people feel silly about something in themselves, they are going to make you feel really silly about it. I have just gone through that. I've had friends make me feel so bad about myself. I have compared myself to people, and I have felt horrible mentally and physically about things. I'm just in such a different place in my life, and I just never thought that that was possible for me. I just always thought I was going to be the quiet, insecure girl who, of course maybe had a little bit of confidence in this area and can maybe do this a little bit or this and that, but I didn't think I could grow past those points. And to see myself choosing to do the things that are so uncomfortable, but they pay off in a way that is just so rewarding and in a way that encourages me to keep going. I could talk about this forever. I really could. I just hope you know that you are not alone in this journey, and all of us feel this way to a certain extent all of the time. It's just a matter of who's good at combating it. Who is consistent with going through the discomfort of reinforcing new ways of thought and new ways of seeing themselves and showing that to the world? And here's the part that still surprises me every time I really think about it. This actually works, not just in theory, not just as some aspirational idea, but in reality. If you do the uncomfortable work, if you keep showing up even when it feels fake, if you build the tiny habits and keep the small promises and gradually adjust your behavior and your self-talk, you will change. You will become more confident. You will start to genuinely like and trust yourself. And it won't happen overnight, and you'll have setbacks, and there will be days when you feel like you're back at square one, but the overall trajectory will be upward. I wish I could pull real-life footage right now of moments that I'm thinking of in my head throughout all my teenage years, even last year, the year before, just thinking of all these moments where I was paralyzed because I was so insecure around people. And now I can walk into rooms and feel excited to be there. I can introduce myself to strangers without my heart racing. I can speak up without over-explaining or apologizing, and it's not because I woke up one day feeling different, it's because I did the work, I went through the discomfort. I kept the promises to myself, I built the trust. And slowly, gradually, I became someone I actually love. I think it's beautiful to be able to help each other out, and I wish that we could all just be vulnerable and lift each other up. But sadly, that's not always the way our world works. But just know that I am here to do that for you. I am so proud of you. And if you listen to all of this, I am so grateful if you did. Can you let me know? Because I have a belief, see here, actively right here. I have a belief in my head that I'm like, nobody cares what I have to say. That's not true, and I know that's not true. I do think that people care what I have to say because I care what I have to say, you know. Don't let that insecurity is something that it likes to peek itself in, but I am going to shift my focus. You have a vision of your confident self for a reason. That vision exists because that person is already inside you, waiting to emerge. She's not some fantasy. She's you without all the limitations you've imposed on yourself, without all the negative beliefs you've internalized, without all the armor you've built up to protect yourself from judgment and rejection. And the path to becoming her isn't mysterious or complicated, it's just uncomfortable. It requires you to do things that feel wrong until they feel right. It requires you to act like someone you're not until one day you realize you are that person. And you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to have it all figured out before you start. You just have to start. Pick one small thing, one tiny adjustment you can make today that moves you closer to that vision. Maybe it's rolling your shoulders back when you catch yourself hunching. Maybe it's rewriting a text message to remove the apologies. Maybe it's putting on workout clothes even if you don't work out. Maybe it's speaking up once in a meeting when you would normally stay silent. Just one thing, and then tomorrow, do it again. And the next day, do it again. That's how confidence is built. Not through grand gestures or dramatic transformations, but through tiny, consistent actions that accumulate over time until you look back and realize you're not the same person you were when you started. The discomfort you feel along the way isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're growing, that you're changing, that you're becoming someone new. Welcome it. Lean into it. Let it fuel you instead of stopping you. And remember that this journey isn't just about you. When you do this work, when you build genuine confidence, you become living proof that change is possible. You become an example for everyone else who's struggling with the same doubts and fears and insecurities that you once had. You show them that it's possible to transform, to grow, to become someone you actually like and trust and respect. And in doing that, you give them permission to believe that maybe they can do it too. That's the real power of confidence, not just how it changes your own life, but how it ripples out and affects everyone around you. When you show up as your authentic, secure self, you create space for others to do the same. You break the cycle of insecurity and comparison and judgment. You model a different way of being in the world, one based on self-trust and authenticity and compassion instead of fear and pretense and criticism. So do the uncomfortable work. Keep the small promises. Build the tiny habits. Act like the person you want to become until one day you realize you are that person. Trust the process even when you can't see the results yet. Believe in yourself even when it feels ridiculous. Keep going even when you want to give up, because on the other side of all that discomfort is a version of yourself that you're going to love. A version that's been waiting for you to do the work required to meet her. A version that's going to change not just your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not fundamentally inadequate. You are in the process of becoming, and that process requires patience and persistence and a willingness to be uncomfortable. But it works. I promise you it works. And you deserve to experience what it feels like to genuinely love yourself, to walk through the world with confidence, to know in your bones that you are enough exactly as you are, while also continuing to grow and evolve and become more fully yourself. The journey is worth it. You are worth it. Start today.
Night train.